Good evening. My name is Jeff Hersh. I'm the principal at Challenge Intermediate School in Goddard. This evening I'm going to be presenting on my district level leadership project. As part of my project, I decided to do an administrative handbook. There were several reasons for doing that. The first of all was we were noticing some inconsistencies in our buildings in the way we were doing different policies, procedures, interpretation, and so forth. Also, it came about as a result of a change in our district leadership. Dr. Henry is our new superintendent. Dr. San Martin is our new assistant superintendent in charge of curriculum instruction. They began to see some inconsistencies, and that's really what created the need for this document. Some of those issues were a direct result of growing pains and opening multiple buildings in the last 5 years. One example is in the last year we've opened our second high school, and with that comes a different level in our district that we've not experienced. As part of the process, I interviewed 4 people, Dr. Justin Henry, Dr. Teresa San Martin, Mr. George Tigner, and Doug Maxwell. Mr. Maxwell is our Chief Finance Officer for the district. Mr. Tigner is our Human Resources Director. Dr. San Martin is our Assistant Superintendent in charge of curriculum instruction, and of course Dr. Henry is our Superintendent. I also surveyed our district leadership team. That consisted of building level administrators, principals and assistant principals, directors, as well as the assistant superintendents that I had mentioned earlier. The results of those surveys were pretty interesting, and there were basically 11 categories that emerged from the data that I collected. Those categories being attendance, budget, specifically how to spend different funds, bullying, how to report bullying, issues with bullying, the procedures in dealing with bullying, discipline, enrollment. We have open enrollment in our district, and that's caused some issues that we're still working through. Facility usage, the hiring process, miscellaneous reports and forms, the end of the year building reports, beginning of the year reports, and so forth. School closures, and how to utilize our 265 police department. After I collected those, I began the data collection again and created a survey and asked all of our principals, assistant principals, and directors to complete the survey. The survey consisted of 18 questions, and I've included that on the PowerPoint so you can take a look at that if you'd like. I'm not going to go through each question. Once the data was collected, I was able to take it and review it and come up with some very general themes and needs. The first area that I created was the section on attendance. And on this section, I had an opportunity to work with the principals and the assistant principals to gather some more information. And one of the things I found that everybody was using something different. And the purpose again of this is to bring some consistency to what we're doing on a daily basis. I gathered all of the letters, presented them to the principals, and the principals reviewed them. We came up with a general consensus that we would use one letter in the K-8 configuration and a different letter in the secondary configuration. So in this section, you'll notice I didn't include the policy, I just cited the policy. So new principal comes in, a new assistant principal comes in, they would be able to go to this section and see the policy on guidelines or policies for attendance are JB and JBR. I'm not going to quote the policies. I'm not going to go in and spell those out. That would be the responsibility of the person that's looking at it. Next, I included all of the different letters that each grade level uses. The first one is the K-8 10-day letter. The second one is the 9-12, the excessive tardy letter, excessive absence letter, and finally our truancy referral letter. Those are all directed towards parents. After that, I identified the policies that a building principal or building assistant principal would need in identifying a student as truant. Included that as well as a definition in this section. And then finally, offered the person that would read this in the appendices, the truancy reporting forms. And we'll include those in here. So hopefully when a new principal comes in, new assistant principal comes in, they would have at their fingertips access to all of this information. And it would be consistent with what other buildings are using. This is only one section. I am still in the process of completing all the sections. But this is basically the general format that I'm going to follow. Finally, what are the next steps? I'm going to complete the remaining sections of the handbook. I'm going to determine then the process for annually updating the document. This is really where I think our next issue lies, and that is Once this is created, who's going to be responsible for updating it on an annual basis? And that seems to be a question that, quite honestly, I'm struggling with right now an answer to. And then finally, I will present this to the administrative team and the Board of Education. Preferably, we'll have this done in May so that we'll have it ready to start the school year. Then annually, when we review this as an administrative team, we'll look at making changes, updates, and then any additions that we might have. That's a general overview of my project. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me or give me a call. Thanks.